Welcome, everyone, to Hardee and Steve's Star Trek podcast. Hope everyone's doing well. And we've decided to talk about the second episode in the original series, Star Trek.
The man trap.
Title, yes, the man trap. Okay, my husband Steve already has two questions to go, or two topics that we're going to discuss. Go ahead.
Yeah, I my first topic, I wanted to talk about these interrelationships that we see right at the beginning. So we're we're told that the mission is to give this archaeologist, Dr. Crater, and his wife annual medical checks. And they've arrived at this planet where they're alone. And Nancy Crater is an ex-girlfriend of Dr. McCoy. And so Kirk says, "Well, you're going to be professional, and that's that." So they go down there, and the mystery starts immediately when we're shown that Nancy is not the same person from different people's perspectives. But we don't yet know what's going on, and we're still willing to maybe believe that Nancy is Nancy. And uh, Dr. McCoy has this ex girlfriend relationship in front of um, the new husband and in front of the captain. And, you know, he is able really to sort of make clear he still is affectionate for her, but not be creepy, I think. And she's certainly not creeped out. And Dr. Crater is agitated. And it almost sort of perfectly mismatches. He's not agitated in a way that speaks of jealousy, and that's because there's something else going on in the episode. I mean, spoilers at 60-year-old TV, but Nancy is not Nancy. Nancy is um, a psychically manipulating alien,
Similar,
and
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm just amazed by the way they pull off that nuance.
So, similar to the first episode that we reviewed, it seems that the theme of uh, a woman who is not who she really is um, is again another focus of an episode. And in this case, we get the the main crew. We get introduced to James T. Kirk for the first time. Very exciting.
Yeah,
We get Spock as he will be for the rest of the entire time in the Star Trek series. And we get Dr. Or medical officer Dr. McCoy. Um, and in this case, McCoy's played by DeForest Kelley, Spock played by Leonard Nimoy, and of course James T. Kirk by William Shatner. And it, it is so different to me from the first episode that we saw that we discussed before, the cage.
for sure.
It's the cage. I felt dealt with Captain Pike's longing for escape into a more peaceful time when he wasn't responsible for uh lives, hundreds of lives on board a ship. And here we get introduced to Captain Kirk, who's a little brusque, more formal, more uh you know, uh, you know, um it seems like more temperamental in some ways, like
Yeah,
very like eager to, just kind of dismiss McCoy as opposed to the sort of like close relationship that Pike had with his doctor. This one was a little bit, you know, a little bit of more you're like subordinate to me.
yeah,
And when they have to, as this sort of medical ship going to go down to the planet to give the annual shots to the people, the two people on this planet, um, Dr. Crater and his wife Nancy. Nancy having this sort of like history with Dr. McCoy. And McCoy still, sees her as this beauty that he, it was an unrequited love in a sense, and you know, this dream girl and this memory of her. So when he gets down there to do his job with Captain Kirk, uh he sees her, you know, he's like, you haven't changed a day. You know, you look just like the day, you know, the last time I saw you. Whereas, you know, the camera then shifts to Captain Kirk's point of view, and we see her as more of a middle-aged woman, a more realistic take on Nancy and how she would have been seen at, you know, in a in her later age. And then we see the the other officer, his name escapes me. He's the younger officer who sees her as this beautiful blonde woman that he felt he had met on a pleasure planet or something, which is which is like three different women. Who is the real Nancy is the question, and does it even matter as we go through this? But again, I did see that it was similar to the cage in some ways, and that again, there's this woman who is at this sort of like Vina. You can't trust her. You don't know what's up with her, and um and yeah, that I found a little bit disconcerting as a woman that this theme uh it keeps repeating itself. But what I like about the Star Trek series um is that my which comes to my first question about the series is that I think we're all searching for meaning in life. And I think Gene Roddenberry created a series, Star Treks, to kind of eh, analyze our world from a different point of view. You know, look at it from this angle, look at it from that, by bringing the option of our imagination into it with aliens from other species and situations that they get into that are sticky, that are so bizarre and unreal at times, and then similar to us in so many ways as well. So, you have any thoughts on that before we go to your second point, Steve?
Yeah, um, I don't know, right? Like we see McCoy, and he's got, you know, old hopes and dreams rekindled, and um, really the crew of the Enterprise just want to finish the mission and move on. And we know the broader arc is, you know, quest for belonging, quest for becoming, like, you know, um, we know that up ahead is Spock dealing um, with his heritage, half human, half Vulcan. We have Data trying to be, you know, more human and understand why he was created and stuff like that. And this is really down to earth here. Here, it's really about McCoy, I think, and I guess that brings me back to this characterization you mentioned at the beginning, that it's the first time we see Captain Kirk. And what struck me is he is so passive in this story. He is kind of dawdling along, and he doesn't really understand what's happening until it's too late and the creature's got its um, sucker fingers on his face, and between it's really Spock who
Spoiler
solves it.
alert for spoiler alert for anybody.
Hey, it's 60-year-old TV. We're going to
Right,
just
right, right.
recklessly say spoilers on the podcast. If you
Yeah.
want to watch the episode before listening to our episode, please do so. It's been out there.
Yes, so the angelic Nancy, or it turns into an alien, shape-shifting alien
Yeah.
who sucks the salt out of people to
Yep.
death.
Yep.
But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, and so at the climax, you've got you know, the creature has come up to the Enterprise impersonating a crew member, and Kirk has basically fallen for it, for its schemes, its little psychic manipulations, and changing of appearance. And um, Spock bursts in and somehow and like reveals the whole plot, explains it to Kirk and McCoy. McCoy is there. Somehow Spock is disarmed. McCoy's got the phaser, and the creature is being Nancy again. It fades in, like you can see it's the creature, and now it's Nancy, and from McCoy's perspective, and Dr. McCoy has to overcome his belief that it's this woman he loves. It's not her. He has to shoot her. And he's ultimately able to do it, save the captain, save the ship. And what's what's more interesting to me about that, it's not so much that McCoy does this rationalist overcoming, it's how completely helpless Captain Kirk is in this story. And it's the first episode to air. It's not the first episode with the new cast filmed. We're going to get the second pilot in a couple of episodes.
Yeah, they
Um,
said this was the sixth episode that was filmed.
Produced, yeah, but
Yeah,
the
and
first
then
to air.
the first they sat them across each other and compared notes and thought this one was the best one to show first. Um, even though it has that horror effect. Um, okay, the horror in here might have been really scary for the day, but honestly, it just looked like a bunch of makeup on people with circles on their faces. So
Honestly,
I was not terrified. Were you?
no, I wasn't terrified. Not by the injuries to the dead crew members with the sucker marks on the face, but I will say for the effects, I think the creature costume was not bad. I think it was believably a um, roughly humanoid shaped alien with anatomy for doing this suckering stuff, and hair to make it look kind of crazy scary. I wasn't scared, but I was willing to
It
sort of
was
buy
not
it.
pretty. It was
No,
not a
not pretty.
pretty character, but
Yeah,
it, yeah.
and
Hmm.
then the camera effect when we're shown the psychic manipulation, it's a camera crossfade, and it's just literally fading one stream of film into the other, and so it's not really aligned very well. But I can almost see, all right, if your perception's being manipulated, maybe this is kind of what it would be like. And if we compare to the cage where there was a um, image projection and manipulation, the alien is switching from one persona to the other. Those are shown with a cut, pretty much, or a very fast fade. This is a pretty slow fade, and it's almost like a completely different phenomenon, even though sort of in universe is very similar phenomenon. But I was willing to suspend my disbelief for these effects.
Hmm. Yeah. On the issue of Kirk being passive, I don't see him as being passive. I see him as a man of power and authority, and he is just a little bit above it all. Too cool for school. McCoy, you're the one who's, hung over your ex. I'm a I've got my eye on the prize. I need to get this mission done, and I don't care about all this nonsense. Let's just get the ball moving and completing our mission and um flying out of here. We we've got our next mission. We don't need to stick around here. Um, yeah, he was a little blasé, a little bit cold and indifferent to other people. Very unlike Captain Pike, who seemed very sympathetic, um, and more empathetic to the situation at hand. And maybe that's why he had trouble with being a leader, because he was overly invested. Even though he came off as gruff and like he didn't notice the minutia of people and their behaviors around him, you could tell he was in tune, in a
Yeah,
line with everybody.
yeah.
And
Captain Kirk loses people in this episode, and he's just like, "Yep, happens."
ah, exactly. Captain Kirk is, I think, the cooler version. Like, oh, almost like they were thinking, you know, that Captain Pike would want to be like Captain Kirk, someone who, is going to be the last man standing, come what may. He's going to be the survivor on this.
Yeah.
And we want someone strong. We want someone who is going to end up in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, the victor.
That reminds me of something that Kirk says. So this is the very beginning of Kirk's appearances.
Mhm.
Something Kirk says at the very end of his appearances in the Generations movie is Captain Kirk and Captain Picard are stuck together on a planet. They have to go do a thing. And he says, risk is part of the game. You want to sit in that chair.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That is also why I've always been a little attracted to Captain Kirk
Yeah.
because of his um aloofness, his I am a little bit smarter than everyone because I am a little bit more detached and can have control over my emotions and feelings. To the extent that Spock and him become closer together because their values align more, even though uh even though Kirk is not a Vulcan, the beauty of their relationship as throughout the years is how I got introduced to Star Trek. The first real Star Trek thing I ever saw was the movie about the whales. No, 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 the Wrath of Khan. The Wrath of Khan. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then how they hurt Spock and how Kirk said it's the he puts up the I believe the one is more important than the many or the many
Yeah.
I don't know that exact. I'm sorry, you could
Yeah.
tell I'm not a true Trekkie, but that I
No.
just appreciate movies because I can't get that quote perfect. If I You could tell, if I were a true Trekkie, I would have that line memorized perfectly. But you know the line, right, Steve? What is it?
I'm not sure exactly, but I know
So
what you're
we're not
talking
true
about.
Trekkies.
So Spock says basically, I'm a utilitarian. The good of the many over the good of the one.
Yeah,
Greatest
yeah,
good for the
exactly.
greatest number. And
Yeah.
and Kirk says, no, I'm gonna rescue my friend. The good of the one over the good of the many.
Yeah, it was so touching. It was so loving. And the fact that these two are the logical ones, the ones who are, you know, um, a little bit, the cool-headed ones, and then they kind of love each other that hard makes it even more impactful to me as a watcher. Like that, and also I felt Captain Kirk was fine the way he was. He didn't need to invest his feelings in every episode, and yeah, it's certainly not in the Man Trap, which I think falls a little bit for me. I i think it was a little bit boring, and I preferred the first episode we saw, the cage, to the Man Trap.
Sure. Well, are we ready to rate?
Sure. What was your rating?
I think I'll give it 3. I
Out of
think
what?
out of 4. I think
Oh,
this.
no, no, we've been doing out of 10.
Oh, out of 10. Oh, I thought last episode we did out of 4.
No, we did the cage.
I gave it 4 stars. You gave it 4 stars.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. We're new podcast.
I hope you edit this.
Do we want to? No, let's leave it in. Let's leave it in. Do you want to do a 5 star rating? Do you want to do a 10 star rating?
No, no,
We can
four
have as
spots.
many stars. Stars beyond number. A whole galaxy full of star ratings.
Oh, we could say, 4 Spocks or 3 or 2 Spocks, you know. But yeah, yeah. So, what would you
Four
give
stars is
this?
good for me.
You like this one?
No, no. I mean, a 4 star scale is good for me.
Right? Yeah. Okay. What was
I
this?
give it a 3. I found it intriguing enough. Um, I found the story interesting enough, and I liked some of the effects. I don't think it's as good as Star Trek can be, but it's better um than the long run average.
Okay, so I don't want to completely knock this one down. I liked the introduction to all the characters. I liked seeing Captain Sulu. I liked seeing um Uhuru. I liked seeing McCoy for the first time, Kirk, um, and the Yeomans, all these people. There were more people generally in this first uh episode than there were in the cage, so that was nice.
Yeah. A
The
lot of rando crewmen getting killed.
no, but a lot of rando crewmen trying to make the life on board the ship look more real and lived in, like walking around, like yeah, it's a real environment, as opposed to when I was watching, that was the thing about the cage. I mean, when I was watching it, looked like this is a set and these there's no other person in the other room. This is a film. It just takes you out a little bit. But this one, it felt like there was enough motion in it that okay, yeah, they're building that world. It's getting, brighter. So for that reason, I'll give it 2.5 stars because I like the introduction of the new cast. Um, but again, I'm already tired of the femme fatale trope that they keep putting in right now. You know,
Yeah, it's kind of similar to
women are not
Cage.
all bad. We don't
Yeah,
all try
ready to
and
move on from
deceive
that.
people. Yeah, yeah. So, and also it's not until later Star Trek iterations that we see women truly take the top spot as captain and so forth. So it's a slow movement, but it happens eventually.
Yes.
Okay, that's
All
all I
right.
had.
Until next time.
Thank you. Bye.